he insanely lit up the Tonight Show stage, live on national television, in front of millions. And moments one will leave you absolutely speechless. Johnny Carson, the king of late night, once confessed, "Nobody ever made me lose control like Robin Williams." And he wasn't exaggerating. From the very first second, Robin bounded onto Carson's set. It felt less like a talk show and more like a lightning strike. One moment he was the charming guest. The next, he was sprinting across the studio, firing off voices and characters so quickly the cameras could barely keep up. Carson, known for his unshakable cool, tried to steer the interview, but every sharp question only gave Robin another spark. What followed were some of the wildest, most unforgettable outbursts in Tonight Show history. Tonight, we'll count down 7 of Robin Williams' craziest Carson moments. From his explosive debut to a farewell that blends unstoppable laughter with quiet heartbreak. Buckle up, because if you think moments 7 through moments 2 are outrageous, wait until you see moments 1. The night Johnny Carson truly lost it for good. During the golden age of television, late-night entertainment was more than just a way to end the day. It was the heartbeat of American pop culture. And at the center of it all stood Johnny Carson, the unshakable king of late night, whose Tonight Show became a nightly ritual for millions. From living rooms in small Midwestern towns to apartments in New York City, families gathered around glowing screens to watch Carson's effortless wit and impeccable timing. His monologue set the tone for the nation's water-cooler conversations the next morning, and his studio, bathed in the warm amber lights of NBC's iconic set, was the place where legends were born. Into this world, at the dawn of the 1980s, burst a young comedian named Robin Williams, already catching fire as the alien Mork on Mork and Mindy. But television had never seen energy like his. Robin didn't simply tell jokes. He detonated them. He arrived on Carson's stage like a whirlwind, spinning characters, accents, and wild improvisations with the speed of a jazz solo. Even Carson, who prided himself on keeping every guest in check, found himself swept up. More than once. He admitted Robin was the rare force of nature who could make the king of late night lose control completely. Moment 7. When Robin Williams first stepped onto the stage of The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson in 1981, it was like watching a live wire suddenly plugged into America's living rooms. He wasn't the neatly polished guest the audience was used to. His jacket looked slightly rumpled, his hair a little wild, and his grin suggested that something unpredictable was about to happen. The moment he sat down, Robin transformed the quiet late-night set into a carnival of characters. Without waiting for a question, he launched into a whirl of voices: British aristocrats, New York cab drivers, intergalactic aliens, switching accents so quickly that the studio cameras could barely keep up. Carson, known for his legendary composure and quick wit, found himself simply watching in awe. He leaned back in his chair, head tilted, laughing helplessly as Robin turned every prompt into a spontaneous performance. The veteran host, who had interviewed the biggest stars of the era, rarely looked so unguarded. Even his trademark sly smile gave way to full-on belly laughs. Viewers across America felt the same shock of discovery. Here was a young comedian who didn't just tell jokes, he exploded with them. That first appearance wasn't merely a guest spot, it was a cultural announcement. From that night forward, it was clear Robin Williams wasn't just another funny man. He was a force of nature destined to reshape what late-night television could be. Moment 6. When Robin Williams returned to The Tonight Show for one of his early visits after that explosive debut, he walked onto Carson's set armed with absolutely nothing. No cue cards, no planned jokes, not even a single topic to lean on. What unfolded was a masterclass in pure, unfiltered improvisation. The moment he sat down, it was as though a faucet of characters and voices burst open in a heartbeat. Robin became a frantic New York street vendor bargaining over hot dogs, then a regal British lord delivering a pompous toast, and seconds later, a high-pitched space alien plotting interplanetary mischief. Carson, who had built his reputation on quick wit and perfect timing, found himself scrambling just to keep pace. Every attempt at a question became another spark for Robin's imagination. Each half-sentence from Johnny turned into a full-blown skit. The host leaned back, laughing so hard he had to cover his face, while the studio audience erupted in wave after wave of applause and howls. Behind the scenes, Tonight Show staff later admitted that Robin had never asked for talking points or any outline before the taping. He thrived on the unknown, feeding off the live energy like a jazz musician riffing on an endless solo. For Carson, a man who prided himself on controlling the tempo of his show, this was a rare and thrilling loss of control. And for viewers at home, it was proof that late-night television could still deliver genuine surprises. A comedian who needed no script because his mind was its own unstoppable engine of comedy. Moment 5. One unforgettable night. Robin Williams proved that even the structured world of late-night television couldn't contain his restless energy. What began as a typical sit-down interview quickly turned into something closer to a live-action cartoon. Midway through a story, Robin suddenly sprang from his chair as if an invisible starter pistol had gone off. In a blur of motion, he dashed across the Tonight Show set, his arms windmilling, his feet practically skipping in rhythm to the audience's rising laughter. He slapped hands with surprised audience members in the front row, paused just long enough to deliver a few impromptu one-liners, then bounded toward the bandstand to mimic a jazz trumpeter's wild solo. The cameras scrambled to follow him as he zigzagged through the studio. Every gesture a new punchline. Johnny Carson, the man who almost never lost control of his own show, could only throw his head back and howl. Between fits of laughter, he managed to shout, "I've lost control of my own show!" A confession that brought the house down. Later, crew members admitted they had to trim the segment for time, not because anything went wrong, but because the roar of the audience went on for so long, it threatened the broadcast schedule. For viewers at home, it felt like witnessing pure comedic electricity. Robin Williams turning a talk show stage into his personal playground and reminding everyone that true genius doesn't always stay seated. Moment 4. There were nights on The Tonight Show when Robin Williams and Johnny Carson didn't just share the stage. They collided in a duel of comedic instincts that felt almost choreographed by chaos itself. From the instant Robin sat down, you could sense the charge in the air. Carson's sly, calculated questions became the perfect setup for Robin's lightning-fast counterpunches. One moment, Johnny tossed out a casual remark about politics. Within seconds, Robin transformed it into a mock press conference. Juggling accents from a gruff New York reporter to a deadpan British diplomat, Carson, usually the master of control, tried to steer the conversation back on track, but every attempt only ignited another burst of improvisation. Robin spun every phrase into a character, every pause into a gag. The audience roared as Carson, his famous poker face cracked wide open, doubled over in genuine, helpless laughter. At one point, he grabbed a handkerchief to wipe away tears, shaking his head as if to say, "I can't keep up." Behind the scenes, producers later admitted these were the moments they lived for, when the host himself became part of the comedy. Viewers at home weren't just watching an interview. They were witnessing two legends spar in real time, each feeding off the other's energy. For a few unforgettable minutes, the Tonight Show desk disappeared, and what remained was pure comedic jazz, an electrifying collision between the steady king of late night and the wild, uncontainable genius of Robin Williams. Moment 3. There was one night on The Tonight Show when Robin Williams turned the studio into a silent film circus, and even Johnny Carson, who prided himself on keeping the show on track, was reduced to pure, uncontrollable laughter. Robin began with a single, wordless gesture, miming the exaggerated stride of an old-time movie hero. Then, as if possessed by every character in Hollywood history, he launched into an impromptu pantomime that spanned everything from a clumsy vaudeville comedian to a swaggering swashbuckler. Without uttering a syllable, he built a miniature story with only facial expressions, wild spins, and perfectly timed pratfalls. The audience caught on immediately, their giggles swelling into full-throated cheers. Carson tried to keep his composure, but the harder he fought it, the funnier Robin became, stretching each move into a new punchline, turning every pause into another cue for laughter. Soon Johnny was bent over his desk, face hidden in his hands, his shoulders shaking so hard he could barely breathe. He waved an arm in mock surrender, a gesture that only fueled Robin's next flourish. Crew members later recalled that the control room was in near chaos. Camera operators struggling to track Robin's every move, while sound technicians battled to keep the roaring crowd from drowning out the broadcast. For viewers at home, it was a rare spectacle. A host famous for his cool, unshakable presence completely undone. That night proved that Robin didn't need a single word to steal the show. His silent brilliance left Johnny Carson and millions of Americans laughing long after the credits rolled. Moment 2. In the early 1980s, when America's political climate was tense and late-night television often tiptoed around controversy, Robin Williams charged onto the Tonight Show stage and proved that comedy could cut through it all, without a single script in sight. What began as a casual chat about current events suddenly transformed into a full-blown political spectacle. One moment, Robin was leaning back in his chair. The next, he launched into a whirlwind of impersonations, leaping from the booming baritone of a U.S. president to the clipped, formal tones of a European diplomat, then into the nervy stammer of a rookie press secretary. Johnny Carson, always the unflappable conductor of his late-night orchestra, could only blink in disbelief as Robin's improvisation grew sharper with every line. Each attempt Carson made to interject turned into another launching pad for Robin's quicksilver wit. The audience roared louder and louder, their applause rolling like waves as Robin skewered the week's headlines with a mix of sharp satire and childlike glee. By the end of the segment, Carson was shaking his head, laughing so hard he barely managed to keep his cue cards straight. Newspapers the next morning quoted Robin's best zingers verbatim, marveling at how a few unscripted minutes had captured the mood of an entire nation. For viewers at home, it was the perfect storm of timing and talent, a live, unfiltered riff that showed how Robin Williams could turn even the most serious political moment into pure comedic lightning, leaving Carson and millions of Americans breathless with laughter and awe. Moment 1. It was the night that would forever seal Robin Williams' legacy on The Tonight Show, starring Johnny Carson. For years, Robin had been the unpredictable spark, the guest who could turn an ordinary interview into a hurricane of voices and characters. But on this final appearance, something deeper unfolded. From the instant he bounded onto the set, there was that familiar flash of manic energy, the quicksilver impressions, the impromptu accents, the kind of electric improvisation that had made him a late-night legend. He leapt from a mock Shakespearean soliloquy to a dead-on impression of Carson himself, and the audience roared as though the walls of Studio One might burst. Yet beneath the fireworks, an unmistakable tenderness rippled through the room. Carson, usually the master of composure, watched with an almost fatherly pride. Each time Robin unleashed another perfectly timed bit, Johnny's laughter carried a note of something more, a quiet awareness that this was their last dance together. When the storm of comedy finally slowed, Robin sat back and, almost in a whisper, spoke of what The Tonight Show had meant to him. He thanked Johnny for years of trust and for giving a young, unknown comic the space to be wildly, unapologetically himself. Carson's face softened. He rose from behind his desk and stepped toward Robin, breaking the unspoken rule of late-night distance. The two embraced as the audience, still catching their breath from laughter, shifted into a hushed, emotional silence. For a moment, you could hear nothing but the faint hum of the studio lights. It wasn't just the end of a segment. It was the passing of an era, a goodbye between two giants whose chemistry had defined a generation of television. Viewers across America felt it, the mingling of laughter and tears, the realization that they had witnessed something unrepeatable, a farewell both hilarious and heartbreakingly human. These 7 unforgettable moments remind us why Johnny Carson remains the undisputed king of late night, and why Robin Williams was the one-of-a-kind whirlwind television we'll never see again. Each time Robin stepped onto Carson's stage, The Tonight Show transformed from a carefully scripted talk show into a living, breathing spectacle of surprise. Carson's legendary poise met its perfect counterpoint in Robin's untamed imagination, creating a chemistry that no producer could manufacture and no generation can ever replace. As the years have passed, these appearances have become more than late-night highlights. They are snapshots of an era when live television could still shock us with genuine magic. Watching Carson lean back in helpless laughter, or seeing Robin turn a simple conversation into a masterclass of improvisation, we are reminded of what late night once meant to millions of American households, a shared moment of wonder at the end of the day. Now picture the studio lights dimming, Carson offering his signature bow as the NBC stage slowly fades to black. The familiar Tonight Show theme softens to a gentle echo, carrying with it the sound of an audience still catching its breath. And in that quiet afterglow, we feel it. The legacy of two legends, forever intertwined. Their laughter still ringing through the golden age of television. Which moment from tonight's countdown made you laugh the hardest? Was it Robin Williams, the unstoppable whirlwind of improv, or Don Rickles, the master of razor-sharp punchlines? Who managed to crack Carson up the most? Share your favorite moment in the comments. We'd love to hear which legendary guest lives on in your memories. And if you enjoyed revisiting these unforgettable nights from the golden age of late-night television, don't forget to hit subscribe so you won't miss the next episode in our Carson's Best Guests series. Before you go, keep the laughter rolling. Click the end screen to watch the playlist, Guests Who Made Carson Lose Control. It's packed with more classic moments that prove why Johnny Carson's Tonight Show will forever remain the benchmark of late-night magic.
Oh, man! Let's go!
All right.